Here is Immortal Moments for explanation. Friends, like videos and subscribes to our channel. Swallowed Star 2 Land of Origin Part 6 Explanation. So let's start our explanation. Master Morosa also felt that Luo Feng was too affected, considering it was just an illusion technique from the true god of void space. Luo Feng glanced at the woman in black and nodded. "You may leave now." Musician Su Yue takes her leave. The black-clad musician Su Yue respectfully withdrew. Luo Feng paid no attention to Morosa, nor to the green-robed attendant on the side, and drank alone. In the huge hall, for a moment neither Morosa nor the green-robed attendant dared to make a sound. Luo Feng silently drank, his eyes deep. His will was currently enduring the honing of the 7 emotions of heart refining technique. Just like steel needs to be forged and struck repeatedly, a creature needs to go through setback after setback to gradually grow. The same goes for the will. It needs to be tempered over and over again. The stronger the tempering, if the will does not collapse, it will become even stronger. The 7 emotions of heart refining technique is special as it tempers one's own will with various emotions. As the secret technique is activated, intense feelings surge and continuously assault the will. I have cultivated for too long, my emotions have become deeper and more restrained. Who would have thought that in this dream flower tower, I would return to the time when my emotions were most intense, reminisced Luo Feng. Within the Lai Yuan technique, there are various secret techniques for cultivating will. I had long chosen the Great Destruction heart refining technique to temper my will. I have already practiced it numerous times during my retreat of over an epoch. This secret technique has a high upper limit, while the 7 emotions of heart refining technique ultimately has its limits. After all, I cannot always be in the midst of emotional turmoil, otherwise, I would go mad, thought Luo Feng. The Great Destruction heart refining technique is about using the mood of utter destruction of all things to grind away at the will. What Luo Feng needed to do was to resist with his will. Because Morosa inherently mastered the destruction of the origin, Luo Feng could directly observe and even attempt to condense the mood of great destruction, making this secret technique highly effective. Destruction of the origin is on the same level of existence as the life origin of the primordial cosmos. Enslaving a sector beast to directly observe destruction of the origin, Luo Feng naturally chose the Great Destruction heart refining technique as his main practice. However, those memories are indeed beautiful. Luo Feng's emotions gradually stabilized. Is this musician Su Yue the one who most strongly affects emotions with illusion techniques from your dream flower tower? Suddenly asked Luo Feng. Upon hearing the question, the green-robed attendant promptly replied, "Our dream flower tower's strongest illusion techniques naturally come from the tower master, but she only occasionally hosts the 100 Flowers Banquet, and only invited guests can participate. Among the other musicians, there are more than 10 who are close to musician Su Yue's level." Luo Feng nodded. "Let them come and play their music." "Very well," said the green-robed attendant, feeling a bit puzzled inside. Why would an eternal true god care so much about illusion techniques from a true god of void space level? In Huyang City, there were some eternal true gods who liked the Dream Flower Tower Master, and there were even a very few who were madly infatuated with her. But it was unheard of for an eternal true god to particularly fancy illusionists of the true god of void space level. But since Luo Feng had commanded it, the green-robed attendant naturally went to arrange it immediately. While Luo Feng was practicing the 7 emotions of heart refining technique, he continuously experienced the illusion techniques of these musicians. Although they all came from the same tradition, each had their own strengths. Some even created an illusory world, making Luo Feng a part of the story within that world. "Supreme One, are you satisfied with these musicians?" the green-robed attendant inquired. "Our Dream Flower Tower has several other interesting novelties. The musicians' illusion techniques are just one of them. Today, I have had my fill. I shall return another time," said Luo Feng as he got up. He glanced at a petite woman covered with leaves, who appeared a bit shy. Named Araya, she was a plant creature from the land of origin. Her music had a special charm that stirred Luo Feng's emotions the most intensely, far surpassing the other musicians. "This musician Araya is very good." Saying this, Luo Feng casually threw a grain of sand that seemed ordinary but instantly drew the gaze of many creatures present. Cosmic sand, the green-robed attendant exclaimed, swiftly adding, Supreme One, all expenses tonight at the Dream Flower Tower are on us, you need not. I dislike taking unfair advantage, Luo Feng stated as he walked out. Morosa then swept up the nearby wine jug with a wave of his hand and quickly followed Luo Feng, not without glancing at the piece of cosmic sand left on the table. Since my master has given it, you'd better accept it quickly. The green-robed attendant then picked up the cosmic sand, admiring the nascent universe contained within it and marveled. The night's expenses were actually just over 2,000 primal chaos crystals, but Luo Feng's piece of cosmic sand was worth far more. Araya, the Supreme One is very pleased with your music, a reward of 10 primal chaos crystals, said the green-robed attendant. Thank you, Steward Yulu, the plant creature, Araya exclaimed joyfully, bowing in gratitude. The other musicians could only look on with envy. They only received the basic service fee, while Araya obviously won the favor of that eternal true god the most. Asterisk 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 asterisk. At the deepest part of the Dream Flower Tower's grand formation lay an unassuming little tower. A figure in a loose robe stood there, overlooking almost the entire Dream Flower Tower, taking everything in view. Master, said the green-robed attendant respectfully, that eternal true god has left, and he also paid with a cosmic sand. The Dream Flower Tower master nodded slightly. Tell me all his information in detail. Yes, the green-robed attendant respectfully began. His servant had visited us multiple times before, but this unfamiliar eternal true god was here for the first time. He seemed to only care about the music and illusion techniques at the Dream Flower Tower. Those musicians are all true gods of void space, so theoretically, their impact on an eternal true god should be very minimal, said the green-robed attendant. But he seems to really enjoy it. Even to the point of shedding tears upon listening. It is indeed quite inconceivable, the green-robed attendant, who was also confused, added. And from what he said, he will come again. With a light smile, the Dream Flower Tower master said, every creature is unique. This unfamiliar eternal true god may just be more susceptible to emotional fluctuations. If those musicians' illusion techniques have such an influence on him, if the Tower Master were to take action personally. The green-robed attendant whispered, he might develop an ardent obsession with the Tower Master. The Dream Flower Tower Master looked out the window. Over the eons, only 2 eternal true gods had developed an infatuation with her. After all, eternal true gods have extraordinary wills. Even if they get immersed temporarily, they would revert to their senses once the illusion was over. Very few would truly become enamored with her. When he comes next time, tell him that I will hold a 100 Flowers banquet in 10 days and invite him to attend, the Dream Flower Tower Master said softly. Yes, Tower Master, the green-robed attendant replied respectfully. A day in the land of origin is very long, and Luo Feng, over the following days, aside from cultivation, was taken by Morosa to various places for different types of consumption, broadening his horizons. When Luo Feng returned to the Dream Flower Tower, he also received an invitation. Supreme, the green-robed attendant greeted him enthusiastically. My Tower Master will host the 100 Flowers banquet in 10 days. Many eternal true gods from Huyang City will be invited, and the Tower Master has also invited the Supreme to attend. The Dream Flower Tower Master's 100 Flowers banquet. Luo Feng was surprised. In 10 days? Yes, in 10 days. It might be several eras before the Tower Master holds the next 100 Flowers banquet, said the green-robed attendant. Luo Feng smiled. Since I'm invited, I would be happy to attend and look forward to witnessing the Tower Master's mastery over illusion techniques. May I ask for the Supreme's honored name? The 100 Flowers banquet requires some preparations in advance, the green-robed attendant said. Luo Feng replied. The green-robed attendant made a point to remember this name firmly. This 100 Flowers banquet was actually for this very eternal true god Luo He before him. If Luo He became fervently enamored with the Dream Flower Tower Master, then her influence in Huyang City would naturally increase. Asterisk 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 asterisk. On the outskirts of the primordial cosmos. The mountain-sitting guest was very reclusive, hardly interacting with other true gods. At the moment, he left his own small cosmos and headed toward Luo Feng's. It's only been over 10,000 eras since I left the land of origin, but time flows tens of thousands of times faster in the regions of the primordial cosmos. I have waited here for far too long. Throughout this elongated time, I've remained but a true god. And made no progress in strength, lamented the mountain-sitting guest, his ancient face tinged with desolation, as he endured the torment of time's passage. Thinking this, the mountain-sitting guest continued his journey towards Luo Feng's small cosmos, and finally he could vaguely see that vast cosmos. The mountain-sitting guest paused, his eyes widening as he carefully observed Luo Feng's small cosmos. The rate of primal chaotic current absorption has slowed down significantly, said the mountain-sitting guest, somewhat excited. It looks like Luo Feng's godly body has finally grown to its limit. His small cosmos, spanning hundreds of billions of light-years in diameter, absorbs vast amounts of primal chaotic energy every moment. Having continued for so long, the accumulated total should put his godly body between 15 and 20 billion kilometers tall in the land of origin, calculated the mountain-sitting guest. As the former god King Jin, he was very accurate in estimating energy scales. Good. Excitement filled the mountain-sitting guest's eyes. With such a massive godly body, thus surpassing his peers, once he becomes a godly king, even if 10 or 8 godly kings joined forces, they couldn't compare to him in terms of divine power advantage. With Luo Feng, there's hope for my revenge, thought the mountain-sitting guest, harboring endless hatred. Everything he valued most had been destroyed by the 3 sovereigns of Shi Kingdom. His sister-in-law and wife, his friends and brothers, his many fellow disciples. All were gone. From that day on, the mountain-sitting guest had only one thought: revenge. For this, he spared no expense. Everything he did in the primordial cosmos was for this single goal. Fortunately, he had cultivated Luo Feng. My strength is much weaker than that of Qian Kuan, the leader of the 3 sovereigns of Shi Kingdom. I only managed to escape death by relying on a secret treasure. A direct confrontation is impossible for me, the mountain-sitting guest was well aware. Only with Luo Feng's growth do I hold hope for vengeance. Just with the enormous advantage of his godly body, Luo Feng should be able to overwhelm the 3 sovereigns of Shi Kingdom, the mountain-sitting guest muttered to himself. After Luo Feng set off on his reincarnation journey to the land of origin, the mountain-sitting guest continued to stay in the primordial cosmos region, intending to understand the divine power capacity of Luo Feng's godly body. Now, the mountain-sitting guest was reassured. It's time to prepare for my reincarnation. I've been away from the land of origin far too long. The mountain-sitting guest immediately headed toward his own small cosmos and began his final preparations before his reincarnation attempt. Night had just fallen when Luo Feng and Morosa arrived at Dream Flower Tower. It seems we are the earliest to arrive, Luo Feng said leisurely as he sat down, Morosa taking a seat to one side, surrounded by buildings shaped like blossoms, with numerous attendants waiting outside each structure. The green-robed attendant said with a smile, "Supreme, the other guests should be arriving soon." "Ha ha. I must be the earliest one again." A mountainous figure flew into the area with a hearty laugh, with the attendant who was responsible for receiving him tossed aside. "Oh!" the mountainous figure exclaimed in surprise as he looked towards Luo Feng, "Someone's earlier." Luo Feng observed this mountainous figure as the green-robed attendant introduced him. "Supreme, this is one of the top artifact refining masters in Huyang City, the sect leader of Heavenly Flame Sect, Shongqianyang." "Ha ha, which divine monarch is this?" Shongqianyang approached with a warm smile. Luo Feng also stood up. "Brother Luo, he must be new to Huyang City," Shongqianyang said with a smile. "If you don't mind, how about we sit together?" "Please." Luo Feng too was fond of making friends, having come to the land of origin to see more of the world. He glanced at Morosa, who obediently moved to the farthest corner. After all, he was only a true god of void space on the surface and shouldn't sit too close to 2 eternal true gods. "I, Shongqianyang, love making friends in Huyang City. I always wish to befriend any new eternal true god," Shongqianyang said as he sat down. "Indeed, I have just arrived in Huyang City and can count the number of friends I've made on one hand," Luo Feng said. "Today, you've gained one more friend in me," Shongqianyang said with a laugh. if Brother Luo he encounters any trouble in Huyang City in the future, feel free to see me. After all, I specialize in artifact refining, having connections with various forces. Luo Feng nodded. To be one of the top in artifact refining in Huyang City, Brother Shong's strength is indeed remarkable. He had practiced the body refining secret technique, Primal Chaos Great Strength Diagram, which is a body refinement method. Since a godly body can recover even after damage, the difficulty of body refining is somewhat lower than that of artifact refining. Even so, it was a considerable effort for Luo Feng to thoroughly understand the first level of the Primal Chaos Great Strength Diagram, foundation building. This made him all the more admire those genuine artifact refining masters. We all have our strengths, Shong Qianyang said humbly with a smile. While they were talking, a winged man flew in, naturally exuding a decadent air. No one paid him any heed as he entered a building on his own and sat down to drink by himself. That eternal true God's name is Sang Shuiyun, Shong Qianyang said, is one of the eternal true gods who always comes to Dream Flower Tower's 100 Flowers Banquet, along with me. We are love rivals. Love rivals? Luo Feng asked in surprise. Shong Qianyang shook his head with a sigh. Unfortunately, while I have intentions, the Dream Flower Tower Master is heartless. Luo Feng found it interesting that both of these eternal true gods were pursuing the Dream Flower Tower Master. You'll understand the charm of the Dream Flower Tower Master when you see her, Shong Qianyang said, suddenly noticing another arriving eternal true god. This eternal true god was formed by condensing mist, their figure obscure and hard to see, with only one eye calmly observing the surroundings. Who might this be? Luo Feng asked curiously. Shong Qianyang whispered, that's Lord Bai Wu of the Six Lords Alliance. Luo Feng was puzzled. The Six Lords Alliance is one of the covert forces in Huyang City, Shong Qianyang explained. It's said that these six eternal true gods often cultivated and sparred together, eventually forming the Six Lords Alliance. They are one of the 19 dark forces in Huyang City. 19 dark forces. Luo Feng nodded. Haven't you purchased any detailed information about Huyang City? Shong Qianyang asked. No, Luo Feng shook his head. Had he done so, it would have been too boring. A journey of cultivation is about the surprises. The official powers in Huyang City are the city owner's mansion, the Huyang Guards, and Huyang's 10 great legions. These official powers are mainly managed by the 5 great families, Shong Qianyang explained with simplicity. Each of the 5 great families has an extraordinary background, some even being of the royal family. Luo Feng nodded, as this was something he understood. In the Yu Kingdom there were 5 godly kings, and their family members, accumulated over the long years, were numerous. Naturally, they would be sent to various primal chaos prefectures to occupy some high-ranking positions. The official forces are led by the 5 great families. They have formidable strength and terrifying backgrounds. But in this world, ultimately, strength is what speaks. No matter how intimidating the background, it's not as reliable as real, tangible strength. That's why the forces formed by some eternal true gods naturally influence the entire Huyang City. The 19 dark forces also permeate Huyang City. Even the residents of Huyang have to pay a residence fee to them, Shong Qianyang said. Besides these forces, there are many weaker families. Most of them are simply conducting business, engaging in alchemy, artifact refining, or establishing sects. We, the independent eternal true gods, have much less influence, Shong Qianyang said cheerfully. We're also not interested in competing for control over Huyang City. Luo Feng nodded in understanding. From what he knew, the sum of the casual and ordinary family eternal true gods in a large city exceeded the number of official and dark powers. There are also some major forces from the land of origin with branches in Huyang City, and while the branches may be ordinary, they can call upon some terrifying experts at any time. Shong Qianyang shook his head. The waters here are too deep. Once you get involved, you could lose your life at any moment. Luo Feng found his newly made friend, Shong Qianyang, quite interesting. Brother Luo, which faction do you belong to? Shong Qianyang asked. None, Luo Feng replied. When I came to Huyang City, I just brought a servant with me. Shong Qianyang laughed. You've just come to Huyang City, it's very easy for some forces to exploit you. I'll give you some intelligence, you'd better be careful and keep an eye out. As he spoke, he flicked his finger, and a stream of light flew towards Luo Feng. Luo Feng looked at the rather detailed intelligence report. Such information would normally cost at least 10 cosmic sands. Thank you, Brother Shong, Luo Feng said. It's nothing. Shong Qianyang suddenly looked outside. There are quite a number of eternal true gods who have come this time. 2 from the 5 great families have come, too. Luo Feng looked over. 2 figures in purple and gold flew in. They each had 3 eyes and extremely sharp tails covered with purple and gold scales. They scanned the area with their eyes but did not interact with any eternal true gods. Instead, they flew towards a certain spot. The 2 eternal true gods from the human clan of the 5 great families. Shong Qianyang exclaimed in surprise, it's rare for the royal family to visit the Dream Flower Tower. With the detailed intelligence that Luo Feng had received, he already knew that among the 5 great families, 2 were royal families, and that Human clan was the family of Godly King Human of the 5 great godly kings of Yu Kingdom. With a godly king as their guardian, through endless ages of procreation, producing countless descendants, and with vast resources for cultivation, the Human clan naturally had a large number of elites. The 5 great families have eternal true gods coming too. That is indeed rare. The charm of the Dream Flower Tower Master is indeed extraordinary. The other eternal true gods who were present were also chatting leisurely and couldn't help but pay attention to the 2 eternal true gods from the Tsuman clan. After all, the Tsuman clan had a godly king behind them. Who wouldn't envy that? As the music sounded, the eternal true gods present all fell silent and looked towards the figure emerging from the void. The Dream Flower Tower Master? Luo Feng gazed from a distance. The Dream Flower Tower Master's godly body seemed to be a manifestation of the laws of enchantment, naturally drawing the attention of every eternal true god present, even making Luo Feng see the shadow of his wife, Xu on her. Such a powerful godly body, does every eternal true god see their most favored traits when they look at her? Luo Feng mused, having already understood from the intelligence given by Shong Qianyang, yet still somewhat astonished. Tonight, there are 15 eternal true gods who have come to participate in the 100 Flowers Banquet. This is also the honor of Dream Flower, the Dream Flower Tower Master said, her voice echoing everywhere and in the souls of every eternal true god. I have newly composed a melody, and I ask all eternal true gods to appreciate it. In attendance, there were 2 eternal true gods from the Tsuman clan of the 5 great families, 5 true gods from the 19 great dark forces, and 8 others, including Luo Feng and Shong Qianyang, making up a total of 15 eternal true gods participating in the 100 Flowers Banquet. The music rang out between heaven and earth, and snowflakes naturally began to flutter in the night. The world in the vision of Luo Feng and the others began to change. Such an impressive musical illusion technique. Luo Feng could feel the strength of the Dream Flower Tower Master's illusion technique, which was far superior to the one that his previously most satisfactory Araya employed. But for Luo Feng, who had the primal chaos pinnacle will, such a musical illusion technique still had a limited impact. Her musical illusion technique is obviously much stronger. If I don't use the 7 emotions of heart refining technique, this music has no effect on me. But once I use it, I'm afraid I won't be able to withstand it. Luo Feng was a little worried. Listened to the melodies of musicians like Araya with the 7 emotions of heart refining technique and felt his emotions surge and his eyes fill with tears. Under the Dream Flower Tower Master's musical illusion technique, if he still used the 7 emotions of heart refining technique, he would definitely be more deeply immersed and might even lose his composure. Morosa, protect me while I practice, Luo Feng communicated telepathically. Morosa, who was eating and drinking alone in a corner, looked up and hurriedly responded mentally, Master, rest assured, I will protect you diligently. The Dream Flower Tower Master's musical illusion technique only enveloped the 15 eternal true gods. Those servants and attendants were not privileged enough to be served by the Dream Flower Tower Master's efforts. Resolving his will, Luo Feng then used the 7 emotions of heart refining technique. With the secret technique in operation, the original music he was listening to suddenly increased its power exponentially, plunging Luo Feng completely into the world of the soul at once. The two eternal true gods from the Tsuman clan listened to the melody. It's mediocre at best, far inferior to some performances at the royal capital. You can listen to it. However, in terms of emotional impact, it's far less than our family's 100 Calamities melody. As they listened and drank, their discussion showed that the music's impact on them was minimal. Most of the eternal true gods present were rather enjoying themselves. Two eternal true gods, Shang Qianyang and Sang Shuiyun, who were infatuated with the Dream Flower Tower Master, were so immersed in the music that their faces were marked with tears of emotion. Luo Feng, who was originally sitting cross-legged and listening, had now lost control. His invisible aura spread out, silently shattering the table in front of him, which startled Morosa in the corner, and even the green-robed attendant was surprised, Supreme Lord Luo He. Fortunately, the building was enveloped by a formation, keeping it intact. Who is this unknown eternal true god? To lose control during 100 Flowers banquet? The other eternal true gods present were all surprised. Even Shang Qianyang, who was sitting beside Luo Feng and deeply immersed, opened his eyes and looked at Luo Feng. He was moved to tears, but he still maintained a clear perception of the outside world and was very far from losing control. Has my friend, brother Luo He, immersed himself so deeply? Shang Qianyang couldn't believe it. The two eternal true gods from the Tsuman clan who had been drinking and chatting turned their heads, keenly watching Luo Feng in the distance as he outwardly released his aura. Is his spiritual will so weak? Merely a performance of a musical illusion technique and he's lost control? It's likely he's an eternal true god who luckily broke through in some remote tribe and doesn't possess a secret technique to cultivate spiritual will, that's why he's so weak. Such a serious flaw in the mind is easily targeted. They watched with amusement. As members of the royal Tsuman clan, they felt superior to the other eternal true gods outside their clan. In their view, these outsiders had crude secret techniques and inferior secret treasure weapons. Luo Feng, they thought, was just the type to have hardly cultivated his spiritual will, lucky to become an eternal true god. What a fine 100 Flowers banquet, but he's ruined the mood. The tall figure covered in black fur, with eyes full of anger, had been deeply immersed in the music, enjoying a first-rate experience, but Luo Feng's actions had disturbed his pleasure. He was none other than Lai Mo, the third leader of the Blood Python Association from the Dark Forces. A newly emerged eternal true god is not worth much concern. A figure cloaked in black scales sipped his drink. The Dream Flower Tower Master will soon ask him to leave, otherwise, he will disrupt the entire banquet. This black-scaled figure was the leader of the Blood Python Association. Interesting, Lord Bai Wu observed Luo Feng with one eye from beneath his misty form. At this moment, the other eternal true gods in the hall were also paying attention to Luo Feng. After all, an eternal true god releasing his aura would naturally trigger the vigilance of others, a kind of instinct. Seeing this, the Dream Flower Tower Master who had been performing the musical illusion technique had no choice but to temporarily stop. I knew he was susceptible to musical illusion techniques, but I didn't expect him to lose control. The Dream Flower Tower Master was helpless. She had to consider the feelings of other esteemed guests. Once the illusion technique ceased, Luo Feng quickly regained his composure, becoming aware that everything in his room, the table, food, and drinks, had all been utterly destroyed. The eternal true gods from the surrounding buildings were all looking in his direction, seemingly discussing something. I've lost control, Luo Feng thought to himself. It seems that practicing the 7 emotions heart-refining technique isn't quite suitable while listening to the music of the Dream Flower Tower Master. Sorry about that, Brother Shang, Luo Feng, who had been sitting cross-legged, immediately got up and apologized to Shang Qianyang beside him. It's nothing, Shang Qianyang laughed heartily. I just didn't expect you to be more immersed than me. The Tower Master's music is indeed extraordinary, Luo Feng smiled. It brought back many memories. I'll go for a walk outside, Brother Shang, you all carry on. Luo Feng glanced at Morosa and then walked towards the exit. Morosa promptly followed. As Luo Feng left the building, he nodded slightly towards the Dream Flower Tower Master in apology, then led his servant Morosa away. He did not look at me with passion. The Dream Flower Tower Master felt a hint of disappointment in her heart. Being immersed in the illusion didn't necessarily mean falling in love with her, but his resistance to the illusion technique is clearly weak. There's still a chance. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the slight disruption. The Dream Flower Tower Master's soothing voice arose, naturally comforting their minds. This unfamiliar eternal true God probably isn't very strong. Apart from that, his spiritual will seems rather weak. As the group of eternal true gods watched Luo Feng leave, they all formed their own opinions. Master, aren't we attending the 100 Flowers Banquet any longer? Morosa followed Luo Feng. There's not much point in attending, Luo Feng shook his head. Without practicing the 7 emotions of heart refining technique, the illusion technique wasn't worth mentioning. But if he did practice it, he temporarily exceeded his own limits and would lose control. Compared to that, musicians at the true God of void space level were more suitable for him. Supreme. Green-robed attendant Yulu also followed along. Arrange another place, Luo Feng instructed, and have Araya come over. The green-robed attendant nodded and immediately began to arrange it via a transmission token. After a while, she whispered, Supreme, the 100 Flowers Banquet is being held today. The Dream Flower Tower has many guests, and Araya is performing elsewhere at the moment. It might take a while before she can come over. Oh. Luo Feng scanned with a glance, his perfect divine body sensitivity immediately locked onto a hall, where Araya was performing. Asterisk 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 asterisk. In that hall, Araya stood there, her body covered in vines that stretched out and coiled around various musical instruments. The instruments resonated naturally under the drive of divine power, plunging the guests into an illusory realm. As soon as the performance ended, Araya immediately bowed to take her leave. Wait a moment. One of the young men sitting in the place of honor spoke up. This young man had 4 purple horns on his head like a crown and eyes burning with purple flames. Anyone with a bit of knowledge could recognize that this youth was a scion of the Moli clan from Huyang City. Araya had to pause. I've been to the Dream Flower Tower many times and listened to countless pieces of music, but you are the most talented musician I've encountered, the young man from the Moli family began. I, Moli Lian, formally invite you to become a musician for our Moli clan. Are you willing? Araya's heart trembled at the invitation from the scion of the Moli clan. She didn't want to go. Entering such a top clan could mean becoming a mere plaything. Next to Moli Lian sat a red-haired man who spoke with a laugh. Araya, Moli Lian is a genius among the younger generation of the Moli family and has even been personally mentored by Commander Moli Xiao of the Huyang Legion, with great prospects of becoming an eternal true god. His personal invitation is an honor for you. What is there to hesitate about? I am a musician of the Dream Flower Tower. I cannot leave without permission, Araya said softly. As long as you agree, the Dream Flower Tower Master will still give face to my Moli clan, Moli Lian said with a smile. Young Master Moli Lian. I don't want to go, Araya said with all the courage she could muster. If she really went to the Moli clan, she would have no way to contend with the core members of such a powerful clan. She would become a disposable plaything. Moli Lian's eyebrows slightly furrowed. Seeing this, the red-haired man immediately said, Araya, you're from the Thousand Leaves Vine clan, right? If I'm not mistaken, doesn't your clan lie within our Blood Python Association's territory? The Blood Python Association is one of the 19 dark forces within Huyang City, secretly controlling the entire city. Araya's face changed upon hearing this. The Thousand Leaves Vine clan has 9 true gods of void space and more than 10,000 true gods, who reside in the Snow Winter district of Huyang City, the red-haired man said, looking at her. I should remember correctly. Within the Blood Python Association's territory, for every cultivator with even a bit of background, he remembered them all clearly. Because he needed to find fat sheep, and once he found them, they would have to be slaughtered. Palace Master Duan, Araya hesitated, she didn't want to relent. The path of cultivation was not meant for being treated as a plaything, but she was afraid of the Blood Python Association. Duan Moyun, your Blood Python Association's strength is just average, said Moli Lian with a light chuckle. His eyes also turned colder. The red-haired man also looked at Araya with some annoyance. Just a little musician, not appreciating the favor, get lost. Araya was on tenterhooks and didn't dare to leave. She could see that Palace Master Duan Moyun was very annoyed, and if she really just walked away like this, she feared it would bring great disaster to the entire Thousand Leaves Vine clan. Just as Araya was caught in a dilemma, a purple-robed attendant hurried into the Grand Hall, repeatedly apologizing. "Young Master Moli Lian, Palace Master Duan Moyun, please do not be angry. Since young Master Moli Lian personally invited her, it's naturally Araya's good fortune. Let me persuade Araya." Moli Lian nodded slightly. The red-haired man, Duan Moyun, smirked. "This little musician has quite the courage." Yes, the purple-robed attendant agreed, about to pull Araya out with him. Suddenly, the entire Grand Hall quieted down. Everyone present seemed to become part of a painting, unable to move or make any sound. At this moment, a black-haired man with a simple-looking servant walked into the hall. "Dream Flower Tower?" Luo Feng sneered. "I said I admire musician Araya. How dare you Dream Flower Tower offer a musician I'm interested in to some kid?" Everyone present was in a state of shock, including young Master Moli Lian and Palace Master Duan Moyun. Their fear was immense. An eternal true god turning hostile could easily crush them to death. Although they had their backgrounds, it did not equate to power. For instance, if Luo Feng didn't care for their backgrounds at this moment, they were just two true gods of void space. Supreme Lord Luo He, the green-robed attendant, also entered the Grand Hall, extremely anxious. "It's our Dream Flower Tower's fault." "Shut up," Luo Feng said. The green-robed attendant immediately fell silent. Luo Feng glanced over Palace Master Duan Moyun and young Master Moli Lian and said indifferently, "From today onwards, the two of you are not allowed to step into the Dream Flower Tower." "And you, Dream Flower Tower?" Luo Feng's eyes swept over the green-robed attendant and the purple-robed attendant. "Araya, you watch her. If you can't protect her, hand her over to me. Understand?" The green-robed attendant nodded repeatedly. "As for the Blood Python Association, the Moli clan, the Dream Flower Tower, anyone who's not satisfied can come to me," Luo Feng said with a slight smile. "I'll entertain them warmly." After that, the invisible aura receded, and everyone in the Grand Hall regained their freedom. But they were all still intimidated, not daring to make a sound for a while. "Araya, come with me," Luo Feng said, then walked straight out. Hehehe. Morosa looked around and laughed a few times before walking out. He'd been ordered not to cause trouble, but if his master Luo Feng caused trouble, Morosa was absolutely in favor. Araya and the green-robed attendant followed out, both somewhat dazed. Only young Master Moli Lian, Palace Master Duan Moyun, the purple-robed attendant, and a group of their subordinates were left in the Grand Hall. "This is too." Moli Lian felt indignant yet helpless. Completely disregarding the Blood Python Association, the Dream Flower Tower, and the Moli clan, the red-haired man, Duan Moyun, was furious and immediately reported the detailed situation to the Blood Python Association's president and vice president through the transmission token. At this moment, the president of the Blood Python Association and a vice president were attending the 100 Flowers banquet. "We must inform the Tower Master." The purple-robed attendant also immediately reported the whole situation to the Dream Flower Tower Master. Luo Feng arrived at the familiar Orchid Star Hall, where food and wine had been prepared in advance. The green-robed attendant whispered, "Supreme, today's events might cause some trouble." Luo Feng glanced at her, saying nothing. He had already been very restrained. To avoid causing great trouble for the musician Araya, he hadn't made a move. When he heard Palace Master Duan Moyun threatening with the Thousand Leaves Vine clan, Luo Feng felt a murderous intent. Such coercion, threatening to compel through clan allegiance, was something Luo Feng despised the most. It would have been satisfying to kill, but it would bring Araya a lot of trouble. Hence, he was very restrained, just giving a few reminders, which was already very merciful. Supreme Lord Luo He, a Blood Python Association member, walked to the outside of the hall, respectfully saying, "Vice President Limo is also attending the 100 Flowers banquet and, having heard about a small conflict between our Blood Python Association's Palace Master Duan Moyun and the Supreme, especially sent me to invite the Supreme to the banquet." "You want me to attend the banquet?" Luo Feng said, holding his wine cup. "If he wants to see me, let him come in person. There's no reason for me to visit him." This episode ends here.